Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Solvable Mysteries podcast. My name is Juras, and as every week, I'm joined by Glenn. Hi, Cove. Man, are you excited for episode 121?
Yeah, this one should be, I think, really interesting. You have a lot of neat topics lined up, I think, from what we had put together. So I even just going through the script today, I was like, wow, this is going to be an interesting trip, but also a pretty serious one in some ways.
Oh, yeah, a lot of dark stuff and a lot of wacky and interesting stuff that we have prepared for you guys this week. I would like to start off this show by talking about the Isabella Kalua case. Isabella Kalua case is breaking, and just hours before rolling today, or tonight for Glenn, new details came forward. Now, to get everyone introduced with the Isabella Kalua case, firstly, I would like to play a news article coverage that we've listened to during the middle of the week. We will have another news article coverage that we want to play for you guys that came out like hours ago, revealing the disturbing and shocking details in this case. Now, the first news clip, I have it right here. Everyone, let's listen in.
Tonight, dozens of family and community members are mourning the loss of a girl who went missing in Waimanalo nearly 2 months ago. This video taken just outside her adoptive family's home on Puha Street this evening, the same place she was said to be last seen on September 12th. Good evening and thank you for watching. Honolulu police today said the missing persons report for Isabella Kalua has turned into a murder investigation.
And they believe her adopted parents are behind the crime. Both 52-year-old Isaac Sonny Kalua and his wife, 43-year-old Lehua, were arrested and charged today for second-degree murder. This is video captured this morning of the raid at the Kalua's Waimanalo home. Both HPD officers and FBI agents swarmed the house before heading in. Lehua was seen a few moments later in handcuffs.
Isaac Kalua was arrested at his job at the Pearl Harbor Naval Shipyard. According to a spokesperson, he's been with them for the past decade and works as a materials examiner and identifier. HPD today says new evidence found last week point to the couple murdering their adoptive daughter Ariel in mid-August. That's a month before they reported her missing. HPD has not released what evidence they found, but officers did collect hours of surveillance footage and interviews to come to this conclusion.
This is very much still an active investigation, and there are some things that we simply cannot talk about. But I do remain hopeful that as time goes on and this case continues to progress, that we will be able to share more details with you in the future.
Both Isaac and Lehua are being held without bail. They're scheduled to have their first court appearance on Friday.
Isaac has 4 prior felonies that includes terroristic threatening and 3 assault charges from more than 2 decades ago. Criminal records show he served 2 weekends behind bars and received 5 years probation. Some neighbors tell KITV4 they're concerned about why Isabella's adoptive family was able to take her in with a criminal background.
How CPS is allowing people with records to have children in their homes. I mean, we could find homes, I'm sure. I was a foster parent too, and I don't understand how this happened. I don't understand how this happened.
Isabella's biological and adoptive family know each other, and the Kaluas took in Isabella and 4 of her siblings. Now, there's no word yet on the arrangement that was made beforehand, but according to the state's Department of Human Services, anyone convicted with child or family household abuse would be disqualified for adoption or foster care. They would also be disqualified for assault, battery, or drug-related charges filed within the past 5 years.
One lawmaker claims the state's guidelines for adoption were not enough to protect Ariel. KITV4's Atli'i Ducalo now joins us live tonight with her concerns. Atli'i.
Well, Rick, Esther Kia Aina represents Isabel Ariel Kalua's hometown of Waimanalo. She says she plans to enact bills and resolutions surrounding the adoption process, what she hopes will prevent more tragedies like this.
Very high emotions right now, very high. All we can do is just sit and wait and pray and just wait for more answers to come towards us. Other than that, it's very emotional.
Family members of Isabella Kalua, who would have turned 7 years old last week, emotional Wednesday evening after learning her adoptive parents allegedly murdered her. Kalua's remains have not been located. Honolulu police investigators promise they're searching for more answers.
We have never stopped our investigation. Ariel was never forgotten.
Did the system fail her? And were there enough signs for her to have been taken out of that home earlier?
Honolulu City Council member Esther Kia'aina, who represents Kalua's hometown of Waimanalo, commends HPD's investigation efforts, but questions whether government agencies could have done more to prevent the alleged murder. According to HPD, Kalua was adopted in the last year or two.
Once adoptions are completed, the CWS involvement in the case kind of scales way back. So they're not conducting the same level of checks or things like that that they would prior to an adoption.
The government is there to provide for mechanisms to ensure that our kiki are safeguarded, and I'm not quite sure if those processes were followed. And so we all have a collective responsibility to do better.
HPD is calling on witnesses who may have interacted with the Kalua family between 2019 and August of this year to come forward. If you have any information, you're asked to call Honolulu Crime Stoppers at 955-8300. Child Welfare Services is also seeking anyone who may have witnessed neglect or abuse in the Kalua family home. Their number is 1-888-380-3088. We'll have those numbers posted on our website. That's KITV.com. Ali Iduklo, KITV4, Island News Tonight.
Yeah, so this is the story, man. This is really quickly to hash out a few interesting details for our audience members that they would better understand what's happening here. Now, some of you guys may have already picked up that Isabella Kalua, the 6-year-old victim in this case, is referred to as well as Ariel, as in Ariel Sellers. Now, Ariel Sellers is Isabella's name given by the biological parents, but now her adoptive parents, the same adoptive parents that are being, suspected of murdering her, gave her a new name, Isabella Kalua, because their last name is Kalua. So the suspects here are the adoptive mother, Lehua Kalua, who was 43 years of age, and then her husband, Isaac Kalua III, who is 52 years of age. So the general gist of this story is that the parents apparently report Isabella missing on September. I'm not really sure on which date exactly, but police suspect that actually the parents have already murdered Isabella by that time, 4 weeks prior. So how they made that conclusion is because on Sunday, Isabella was last seen on the home CCTV footage. Now, she hasn't been seen since or witnessed by anyone else. Sometime in August, then 4 weeks later, the family members report Isabella missing. So you put 2 and 2 together, and you kind of suspect that the parents have killed her. And we have some shocking details coming out of this case like recently. But before we jump into that, man, I want to throw it back to you. What do you think about this case?
So, the case itself is horrifying, of course. It's interesting that when you had it on the script, and it was the one that you had I think really accurately pinpointed as a story to watch, and I had my initial reactions, and then I was really surprised when it wasn't even 24 hours later when we looked at the script again, and you had all these additions and all of a sudden all this information. And it's interesting because it was exactly where I thought it would go, but I think it was way more information all of a sudden, and I guess evidence or testimony, let's say, than I had even hoped for, if that makes sense.
Exactly, man. And now jumping back to a little bit of what this news clip told us and that we listened to. So essentially, if you can see, man, the adoptive father, Isaac Kalua, and we can see this on the screen on the YouTube channel for everyone who wants to really quickly glance at that. You could always do that. So Isaac Kalua had a prior criminal history. He had 4 prior felonies, a terroristic threatening, whatever that is, 3 assault charges, and and it's all happening more than 2 decades ago. So essentially, Isaac Kalua was definitely someone. Well, he was working at the shipyard, Pearl Harbor shipyard in Hawaii, and apparently he had a pretty substantial criminal record. And one of the interesting points coming out of this case is, people are really questioning how were these adoptive parents given the opportunity to adopt a child. And apparently they adopted not just Isabella but her sister as well. As I've said, the case is breaking and we don't have all the latest details, but we do have testimony from her little sister. We'll be talking about that very soon. It's going to be horrifying. But really quickly, before we move on to that, I wanted to ask you, man, what do you think about this whole situation with like the adoptive parents having, like criminal history, at least a father?
I wish that one or more of our viewers and podcast listeners would write in on the YouTube comments specifically on this video, because I'm really scratching my head trying to figure out, like, it doesn't really like, I have to wonder, is there a financial motive? Is that what are they it says they're adoptive parents, but then it says something about foster kids, so I'm sort of confused because I thought foster families were different than like outright adoption. Right. So I'm a little bit confused about that. But regardless, okay, whatever my ignorance is, um, I would like to understand why people would adopt kids if they seem to dislike them so much. I mean, and go out of their way to harm them and, I mean, starve them. Look at these 2 fat idiots in this thing, these 2 suspects, these horrible human beings. And I got to watch out what I say on YouTube because, as angry as I get watching this, YouTube's got very specific rules about advocating bad things to happen to somebody. So I'm not advocating bad things to happen to anybody, but I mean, I'm sure in the old days, can you imagine this was I don't know. It's interesting because, that's almost a separate topic someday. Is I've read some interesting things about how the rights of children and how children are treated apparently has changed a lot over even recent history. So that's maybe a side topic, but you got to imagine at some point people like this, would suffer some pretty severe punishments other than the way we deal out here. And they're just, I mean, they don't look like nice people. They look kind of like angry people. And then they're not feeding the kid, but I mean, they're eating fine, right? They didn't look skinny at their arraignment.
Yeah.
I just resent people like this so much, and I don't really understand why they do what they do. Is it because they're collecting extra checks from I guess what I don't get is, if you adopt a kid, then is the government still paying you anything other than like a tax credit? I guess is like one thing you could like look for. I don't understand like why they're taking on a kid that's only
Really quickly, dude, want to step in? I have some details here. These are very vague details. Apparently, the adoptive parents were allegedly going through some sort of a bankruptcy lately. But this is still hazy, but that's what I've read.
Okay. I mean, well, I guess I'm not surprised. They don't seem like they would be good with money either, if they're bad with taking care of children. I don't understand why they're not feeding the kids, and like, I guess their whole beef is this kid is running around the house at night when everyone's supposed to be asleep, which is what, this is always what happens with these abusive parents. So it's just me getting my soapbox, because it's a pattern I've noticed in extreme abuse cases, some even more extreme than this, though this is already at the far extremes of how you would think human beings would treat children.
The family house. Really quickly, sorry, man, for interrupting here, but the family house, we can see this on the Google Street View. I managed to locate the house. I don't necessarily know when this it has been taken. I would assume this Street View image was taken, most likely when the Kaluas were still occupying this house. We can see a few cars. The house doesn't look that bad, you know? It looks pretty neat.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird. I mean, so I don't really what's going on. Really get what's going on there. I don't understand. You know what I mean? Like some murders. I mean, because this is what clearly that's what the accusation is, right? I mean, everything. This seems like a very deliberate act, and if not, I mean, the negligence and cruelty and abuse was such that you might as well have assumed that it was going to cause the death of somebody. Why would you do this? Why would you bring all this trouble on yourself? What goes through the heads of two stupid idiots like these two, where you're like, what did you think was going to happen if you don't feed a kid? And then the thing where they put, I mean, this is one of my worst nightmares, by the way, putting duct tape on the nose and mouth um, of, once again, a little child. And then, I see that picture of that child, the poor kid. I always wonder with these, because there's been a bunch of these stories over the years. There's been some very infamous ones, even here in my county. Actually, there have been ones that would almost rival as bad as that Ukrainian thing was that we did the other week.
Jeez.
I mean, not quite that bad, but like almost. You know what I mean? Like sort of like ballpark, same sentiment. Maybe almost worse because it was a family member, while those guys were doing that to strangers, right? Okay, but yeah. Anyways, I always see these kids and they have these forced or like, I don't know, like desperate looking smiles, and you always wonder, like, man, how can that kid even muster that? Because it's probably already going on, right? Or it's about to going on, or they're either seeing the horizon of this thing that's going to happen to them that they're trapped in, and they don't really have any way often to get adults interested. I think this is also, before you go on with any additional details, once again, this is like a common thread here in California with the infamous ones we've had. Failure of human service, child services and human services, whatever you call it in the state you're in, or the country you're in, the authority that was supposed to look after the rights of children has majorly failed, not just one child, but multiple children, just like that Houston thing, last week that we
Oh,
covered,
yeah.
where you got these kids. It's like, no one's coming out of this thing normal, right? No one's gonna
No,
like
no,
say,
no,
oh,
no. No,
yeah.
no, no. Yeah, yeah. That's right.
I mean, best case scenario, this kid is gonna be grew up to be a troubled adult. I don't even imagine, like, how does someone recover? I mean, I guess, well, people do. I guess, they obviously, people have gone through bad experiences like this and moved on. But yeah, it's pretty awful. And then I guess the thing was, it went exactly where I thought it was going to go, because whenever you hear about a kid going missing, and like kind of these like little hints about abuse,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden, here we are. I mean, I think it was just so surprising that all of a sudden you had. And why would they even bring in a kid to you know what I mean? Like, those two dummies couldn't handle hiding a murder themselves. They had to implicate a 7-year-old.
Yeah.
That's another part that's like, have you no shame? Like, I mean, it's like they're incompetent. I don't even know how they got that, but because Hawaii's like a very expensive place to live, and a lot of people don't have high incomes there, or they have to work multiple jobs. So it's not like it's all, fun and games in Hawaii for sure, even though, it's a really nice looking place. It's got a lot of like poverty and desperation as well, especially in some parts of the islands. So it would be really interesting to see. I think this is going to be one of those cases. Maybe you're going to bookmark, or we're going to bookmark for a future follow up, because obviously there's a big trial and there's a lot of untold answers, but
Oh,
it's
yeah.
just so weird that we have two of these like horrible child abuse things back to back, and kind of similar themes of just like, you just have to even wonder, like, why would you even go out of your way to torment a kid like this, that you could just give back to her family? Like, why would you, what I mean? If the kid was bothering you, if the kid's special needs, or it's kind of hard to tell, like if the kid might have like some kind of syndrome going on, or who knows, right? Maybe kids are AD. Sometimes I think in some of these cases, people end up with like a special needs or like ADHD kid doing something that's acting outside of parameters that already these people are not emotionally equipped to handle. You know what I mean? Like they're already not supposed to be taking care of kids. And yeah, then you see someone do something like this, and you got to wonder, like, what, like, you just ruined your life. And those people don't look young, right? They look like they're kind of on, like, the, the back half of their lives.
40, yeah, I could, shed some light on that. Lahua is 43, while Isaac is 52.
Yeah, and the way that they're like obese like that, and just given maybe some potential,
I mean, they're not that obese. I mean, they're obese, but they're not.
no, they're pretty. Look at that. That's a pretty wide necks on both of them. Honestly, they're probably not too far from diabetes or something, given
Right.
some of the health concerns about diets, especially in the islands. And they're not probably not eating super healthy. They're probably eating um, stuff. Maybe there's a lot of preservatives. It's hard to get things on the island to stay fresh, other than the fresh food they grow there, which is why spam is such a popular island delicacy even now. Um, that stuff's not good for you. So yeah, I just can't imagine, like, I would, once, I'm just gonna say, once they get convicted, because I think they will be. Um, I can't really see them living too long in jail. I can see them making it maybe, another 15 years. And I think between just living a more sedentary life in jail, and I mean, wouldn't it be interesting if jail actually saved their life because they got a more Spartan diet than what they're getting at home, and obviously stealing from their children?
Right. I mean, I'm not sure about what kind of a life they still have, right? But the big question here is, do police have enough to charge them, right? This was the big question. I was looking into this case, and during my first initial look at this case during the middle of the week, we didn't have all of the details that we do have now, and I'm very excited to present to you. Well, it's gonna be very tragic and gruesome and horrifying, but we now have more of these details coming out of this case. I think we could make a better assessment whether or not these people will get charged with this, because let's remember, it's all still alleged. They're not yet, I think they're convicted. I'm not really sure how the legal system works down there, but I think, like, the police definitely hasn't released everything they have. Apparently what they have on this case is a bunch of CCTV camera footage and eyewitness testimonials of when they last saw Isabella Kalua alive, and that's how the cops were able to put a rough timeline of events. And they do estimate that the parents here, uh, these two kind of terrible people right here that we can see on the screen, they must have killed Isabella sometime 4 weeks prior to reporting her missing. Their official statement to police when they called her missing, I think they were saying, like, on one of these days, they put her to bed at like 9 p.m. in the evening, and then the following morning at 6 a.m. they found her missing, and they told police that she must have walked out of the house, you know what I mean, at 6 years of age. Just walked out of the house at 6 a.m. in the morning, reported her missing. I think these people probably fell under suspicion immediately after making these statements, because they didn't really add up. Now, I've been foreshadowing the other news clip that I want to play to you guys. It's gonna be very, very tragic, very sad, horrifying, but we have to play this because this is literally the newest development happening maybe 4 hours ago. So let's listen in, guys. This is gonna be very sad and frankly very scary.
And graphic details surface about what police say happened to 6-year-old Isabella Ariel Kalua. Her adoptive parents were in court this morning, their first appearance since being charged with murder. We have team coverage tonight, beginning with our chief investigative reporter, Lynn Kawano, who has more on what the court records revealed. Lynn.
Mark, the witness in this case is the girl's older sibling who gave investigators graphic information about how Isabella Ariel Kalua was not being fed and was locked in a dog cage, allegedly by her adoptive parents. Lehua and Isaac Kalua did not say a word during their initial court appearance, a video conference from OCCC.
I am entering that guilty plea on both of their behalf at this time.
The Waimanalo couple were arrested Wednesday for murder for the alleged killing of their adoptive daughter, Isabella Ariel Kalua. Court documents reveal the child was last seen on the home surveillance system on August 18th. Between that day and August 21st, her older sibling told investigators the girl was locked in a dog cage in the bathroom because she would sneak around at night because she was hungry. The court record shows Lehua would not feed her. The sibling said Isabella Ariel had duct tape over her mouth and nose, and she was not breathing. The documents go on to say the sibling was forced to help carry her sister's lifeless body to the bedroom. From August 21st to September 7th, police say Isaac Kalua then faked a COVID illness to take 2 weeks off of work. The sibling said it was to help mom to get rid of the stuff, evidence. 5 days later, on September 12th, the Kaluas told police they put the girl to bed at 9 p.m. And 1:30 a.m. the next morning, September 13th, Lehua Kalua reported the door sensor was activated. At 6:25, Honolulu police responded to the home after the Kaluas claimed she walked away in the middle of the night.
So we'd ask the courts to deny any release or reduction in bail. We would further note that defendant Kalua, Isaac Kalua, has ties to the continental United States. He does have prior convictions for assaultive behavior.
The Kaluas were the foster parents of the girl and her siblings before adopting Isabella Ariel in January. The court records do not provide any information on where the girl's body is and said her sister did not know what happened with the remains. The Kaluas are being held without bail. Their preliminary hearing is set for November 26. I'm Lynn Kawano, Hawaii News Now.
And the little girl's biological family says that after reading the report, they are incredibly heartbroken and angry. Our Sammy Selena spoke to them this afternoon. She's live in Waimanalo with more. Sammy.
There's still police activity at the Kalua's house as the investigation continues and the search for her remains. Now, the biological family said that they are absolutely disgusted by what those court documents had to say about the abuse, and they said this fuels their fight to get Ariel's siblings back home with them. So in the report, it says that Ariel died in the home behind me and that her sister witnessed seeing her lifeless body in the bathroom. Her relatives cannot understand what brought the Kaluas to allegedly put the little girl in a cage and duct tape her nose and mouth. They're horrified by what Ariel's older sister witnessed and are praying that this time the siblings end up in a safe home.
This is a child. How can you do something like that? You know, if you weren't happy, give it back. Bring her, give her to the next person that will give her the love and comfort, you know. It's just frustrating.
What was their reasoning behind having the girls? I really don't know. But if they had loved my nieces the way they claim to have, they would have never done any of this.
Her family told me they'll be fighting to gain custody of Ariel's siblings. Now, back here at the home, police have been going in and out of the Kalua residence all day, and they said that pretty much they've been active here since Wednesday, since we saw them arrest Lehua, and their investigation will continue on. Sammy Solina, Hawaii News Now.
As we learn more about this investigation, one of the questions that keeps emerging is how did Isabella Ariel and her siblings end up with the Kaluas in the first place? That's one of the issues investigator and child advocate Steve Lane has been exploring throughout this case. An area of concern that initially jumps out is Isaac Kalua III's past conviction of terroristic threatening and assault 20 years ago. Lane spoke with us earlier this week and says a criminal record alone should have kept the Kaluas from adopting children. And furthermore, the kids could have been placed with biological relatives.
One of my concerns is that there are apparently competent, available volunteer members of the biological family who are willing to take these children and who are willing to take the children before they were placed with the Kalua family. That's another question, is why didn't the state look first, as they're required to the biological family relatives for the placement of these children?
Child Welfare Services has said it is unable to provide comment during an ongoing criminal investigation and if there is involvement with law enforcement or the courts. And we'll continue to bring you the latest on the murder investigation right here on Hawaii News Now and on all of our digital platforms.
Yeah, so there's a second clip that we just listened to, and it's extremely shocking. Apparently, Isabella was kept in a dog cage during the last days of her life on Earth, and she was kept in a dog cage because if the parents wouldn't keep her in a dog cage, she would sneak around the house at night in search of some food to eat because they were starving her to death. So she was walking around the house at night. And really just makes me think why her other siblings didn't go through the same evil regimen. Do you have any ideas on that? Because, I mean, why would a single kid be singled out like that in such a horrific way?
Yeah, it's really weird. That happens too, especially in these extreme cases. It doesn't mean necessarily the other
Native
kids
reporter.
weren't getting. I mean, well, both in this case and other cases, doesn't mean that other things weren't happening to the other kids, either neglect or abuse. But there always seems to be this one kid who's like almost becomes the scapegoat for the parents. I don't know what it is, and then what happens is they just pile on tremendous amounts of abuse, and it's frequently fatal. I mean, maybe this is something else we might see in some of the comments. Is I just think some amount of kids must escape like alive from abuse like this. I mean, obviously not to this extreme, but you know what I mean. There must be some middle area on the extreme side where kids are still coming out of this. I mean, they're under 18. I don't know. I can't even imagine.
As it, sorry, dude. I dozed off a little bit. I was setting something up.
Yeah.
Apologies. I was like, some people may have heard some news clips playing in the background. Just really curious what you are trying to say. Are you?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's like I mean, because I think we've all heard from people that have gone through like different kinds of parenting or abusive households.
Right.
You know what I mean? So then it's just amazing when you think like, well, this is the extreme end of that, but there must be something that's almost nearly as horrifying, but somehow some of those kids escape alive through it. It does make you wonder, especially in the past before, like obviously like records have been kept for a long time because governments have a vested interest in, trying to tax tax their citizens and keep track of who's born there, etc. It makes you wonder though how much of this happens, you know, all the time before, let's say, the government had enough tools to even start keeping track of people that were born.
Oh, I see what you mean. Like in terms of the old days when, the government wasn't keeping tabs on all of its citizens as much. How many of these people have been, or let's say kids, have been born in such families, unreported, tortured, and killed, and we never even found out about it. I mean, I'm certainly that must have been happening like probably all the time. And even going back to maybe like medieval times or like different parts of the world, not just like the Western world, there's probably, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe that's a good way to finish off this topic for as we segue to the next topic. Is that
Yeah.
yeah, this came up. I can't remember if this is under the Wikipedia listing for
All right.
crimes like this. Yeah, but there's been there's been an evolution of like how children were treated. It's interesting when they look at some of the more primitive society. Well, like I guess societies in earlier stages, right? So even before like maybe agricultural, they think that maybe children were treated like almost just like things at some point by some of those tribes, or just it's interesting to look how the level of empathy around how people treat children, how it's come so far, but then you'll have people like this where, I mean, what, what I mean? It's just flabbergasting.
Yeah, exactly. No, I was trying to Google and still am as we talk. Evolution of child care. There's something coming out of the social welfare dot liberty dot bcu dot education. the history of child care in the US. I'm sure that's an interesting topic, but as you've said, man, let's move to another topic. So we will be keeping our tabs on the Isabella Kalua case, and I've already set Google News alerts. So if there are new updates coming up, as we go through this upcoming week, we will definitely go back to it for a little bit and give you the latest details on this case. As what we will do this week in reference to Cleo Smith case. I'm sure everyone remembers our main case of last week, Cleo Smith. Some pretty, let's say, disturbing developments coming out of that case. Very sad developments as well. We have you covered on that, but before we jump to that, we still have some more cases we want to highlight over this week. So the next one, I think you didn't really got the chance to probably get all that acquainted with this next one, right? It's gonna be the Silent Man from Wales. Okay, so this is a really wacky one. It's not necessarily a murder mystery, it's essentially maybe a psychological mystery. What the hell is up with, let me get his name correct here, what the hell is up with David Hampson from Swansea in Wales? So I have a picture of this man. This picture, now this man looks like he's a extra at like some zombie film. If for everyone who's watching this on our YouTube channel, he doesn't look like he's, you know what I mean? Like, he looks interesting. Now, the man apparently has been stopping traffic in one busy street right next to the Swansea City Police Station in Swansea, which is in Wales. And you know, Wales is that country to the side of England. It's in the British Isles. Essentially, this man has been stopping traffic, getting booked. What he will do, he will literally just go in front of he will stand in the middle of a busy street in the city center. He will stop traffic. He will not let cars pass. He will sometimes fall like over on the car a little bit. There was an instance where he apparently was like almost hugging like the front of a mail truck, like some sort of a mail service truck, and wouldn't let it drive. Now police will go and arrest him. He will get sentenced to like jail. I think like smaller sentences, like maybe like just some weeks, you know what I mean? And on the same day as he's released, he will go and do the same thing, and he will get jailed immediately again. And you know, the cherry on top of the weird cake here is the fact that he doesn't talk. He's not gonna tell you anything. Now there is some sort of an agency in Wales, somewhat similar to the bounty hunters from America, where they will go and collect the person who needs to go to court. And apparently this David Hampson, he did spoke to those people, but he doesn't speak to police, or he doesn't speak to court in the court. So we now know that he does talk, but he chooses not to speak. And he's also, from what I'm gathering, doesn't have a house, so technically homeless. And there's a big story and theory here that he's doing this just to stay in jail. But just in general, dude, your thoughts if you were driving late at night and you see this face in front of the road? Like, what's your reaction? My reaction is like, I'm trying to pull like if I can like turn around, and I'm parking my car, and then I'm probably running away, because this dude looks like he's like means trouble, you know what I mean?
You know, I saw a weird video on Reddit that was kind of just like this, except the guy in the video was naked. So this guy did like what this guy is accused of doing in this video, where he walked down the middle of the street naked and was just messing with traffic, and out of his mind, I guess. And then one of the cars stopped, and the guy got out and just slapped him and the guy got like basically knocked out by the slap on the ground. I have to wonder, like, A, how come that didn't happen to this guy yet? So you figure that, like to some degree, I mean, maybe because it's Britain, and the video I saw, I think, was probably from Russia or someplace. But though I know Russia has some pretty strict punishments for physical attacks as well. So, yeah, I don't know. It's just interesting this guy doesn't have kind of a natural disincentive to do this. But then you have to wonder. It's an interesting conversation because, I mean, what do you think? Like, people I guess, are people accusing him of trying to like free ride on society?
Yeah, I think that is one of the allegations made on Reddit. I have a little write up. I want to flesh out some more details of this weird and disturbing case, mainly because of the picture of the dude, right? As we can see on the map, by the way, I'm showing on the map like the police station in Swansea. And apparently, this is the De La Beachy Street or something like that, in next to the police station in Swansea. And apparently, this is the street where the dude would go and reoffend and get booked. So really quickly, dude, we could glance at the street now. The street is like a smaller, like a British street, but it's just imagine like driving here and then having like this dude right in front of you. You know what I mean? It's definitely not a fun time, probably, right? So the case is, and I'm just gonna read what I see here on Reddit. This case is that of a Welshman who has been standing in the way of traffic for 7 years. He is being called, quote, the silent man. He does not utter a single word and stands in the middle of the road blocking traffic. This action has caused this disruption and traffic jams on the roads of Swansea. David Hampson, who is 51 years of age, regularly makes a one-man stand against oncoming cars and lorries and keeps his mouth shut whenever he's arrested. He has been doing the same thing since 2014 on the road outside Swansea Central Police Station, and no one knows why. Hampson has already been jailed 9 times for this disruption over the years and was put under a criminal ASBO to keep the traffic flowing. He never speaks, not to the disgruntled drivers, not to arresting officers, not to the judge, not to doctors, psychiatrists, lawyers, or probation officers, or even cellmates. Once he barricaded himself in his prison cell. Once he barricaded himself in the prison cell, and this is gonna be a good one, and set his bed on fire and sat there silently until officers managed to get it in and drag him to safety. All right. As a past trial in Crown Court, it was decided that he was, quote, mute of malice. Now, mute of malice means that he is able to speak, but decides not to speak. There's another, the designation, I guess, that whales use, which is mute by visitation of God. Now, this means that he could not speak because of some sort of physical impairment, but apparently he does have the ability to speak. He just never speaks. You know what I mean? So nobody knows why he's reportedly blocking traffic on the same road, and it is a total mystery why he never speaks as well. Now, the interesting point for me is that once he actually set fire to his bed in a prison cell, I mean, if your sole goal is to stay in prison, I mean, maybe setting a fire to your bed will probably prolong your sentence. But then again, dude, wouldn't you think that there are better ways to like prolong the sentence rather than just setting the... Or maybe it is one of the better ways to extend your stint in prison, right?
Yeah, yes and no. Yes, I mean, it's doing a crime, and it's probably... I'm trying to think. There's probably some crimes you can do in prison. I mean, I know there are, but it's interesting to think that like he's doing one that could get him conceivably. I wouldn't say it's going to get him more comfortable living arrangements. If that makes sense to you, like that.
Yes.
Like I'll give you an example. So like here, prisoners that make a nuisance of themselves, or even worse, make a deadly threat of themselves to other prisoners or guards, can find themselves in escalating series of even stricter living environments to the point where they get sent to like what we call like maximum security or supermaxes, where supermaxes are the worst of the worst. And living in supermax is a hell. It's like a sterile little legal hell, but it's a hell. It's like you're living by yourself in a tiny little cell, and you get to see the sunlight for like 1 hour a week or something. You don't have any windows. You just sit in this little room, and maybe you have a TV, but otherwise you have no other contact with other people. They give you your food, through a little door, and then a door in your door, a little attached in your door. It's just very strange to me what he's doing. So I guess part of me really has to wonder, given that, like isn't Wales part of like the UK's whole socialized medicine?
I would say so, but I'm not sure.
I'm just going to assume yes, and then if I'm wrong, I'm sure there will be no limit to who will come tell us about how wrong we are. But
Yes.
yeah, from my perspective, I'm like, well, what's the problem here? Like, you guys have this health insurance, or this national health insurance. This guy seems like he's wacky. You can't force him to work, right? I mean, you can't. That's slavery, right? So I mean, obviously, even though
Slavery?
everything has, you can't force somebody to work, can you? Like that's I guess that's
Oh yeah,
can
yeah,
you
yeah. No, no, no.
is you know what I mean, is work ever compulsory? So my stipulation to that though should be, if he is going to live on the tax dollar, I mean, either he's going to get mental treatment and therapy and find out if this is in fact intentional, which it kind of seems to be acting like a jerk. But sometimes he actually seems to be acting a jerk in spite of himself, and that latter part seems to maybe indicate some kind of mental issue. So if that's the case, we'll like get him treatment, but he can't be wandering out into traffic. That's the part that kills me, is by like not taking this seriously enough and really, limiting his rights, or limiting his, until he can show that he's of sound mind, like taking him out of the public, like it's it's dangerous to drivers, right? Because someone's going to try to go around him. Yeah.
Really quickly, just wanted to interrupt here. I had an idea. This dude, maybe he's a really nice guy because he chooses like the victimless crime here. Well, to some extent, people are probably late to work because of his shenanigans. But what if he thinks, okay, this is way too stressful to keep coming out there and making sure that I'm having like a good long prison sentence? Maybe as he gets older and he thinks like, okay, I really need to secure my life in prison for the rest of my life, wouldn't he like just grab like a kitchen knife and just find like some sort of a kid or an old lady and just like stab them in the neck or something like that?
Well, I mean, hopefully he doesn't want to be a monster like that, but I guess I mean, it does make you wonder why he picks this. I guess just the thing is, regardless of his intentions, it's actually dangerous. Like, he's actually going out in front of people, and that could cause a whole chain reaction
Yes.
of accidents and things like that. It's not totally victimless what he's doing. And I guess I have to wonder, like, at some point, if someone does get hurt because of what he does, could they then turn around and sue the government and say, like, look, like, you had plenty of warnings. This guy, it's not like this guy did this for the first time ever. He does it like it's his hobby.
7
He
years.
does it like his job. Yeah, like, he does it longer than most people do most hobbies. So why can't you why can't you get him out of you know what I mean? I guess this is my frustration, I guess, often with a lot of like crime and punishment, is a lot of people say, well, isn't the point of jail to rehabilitate? I don't think that at all. I think that's nice. I think that's a side benefit, but I think the main point of jail, or institutionalizing somebody, if they're not criminally responsible, is frankly to keep them from doing ongoing harm. So you know what I mean. Like at that point, even if you just wrote that person off, almost regardless of what the level of crime they're doing, you're actually protecting the rights of other people from getting victimized. While if you repeatedly put the person back
Right.
Yeah, back into the game. Like, why do they keep the? You know what I mean? It's like the dude's like, take me out, coach. I'm not gonna. I'm not playing well with others here.
You have to vacuum.
Yeah, yeah. The Wales government is just like, oh no, get back out there, kid, do your thing. And like, what? Block traffic? Yeah, go for it. Yeah, we don't
But this
care.
guy said like this guy like okay, if a story would come out that this dude literally like chopped someone's like head off, like looking at his like mugshot, like would you be surprised? I wouldn't be that surprised.
Looks like a bad guy in a superhero film almost. You know? I don't know. Have you watched Dune?
Nope.
Oh, okay. He looks a little bit like some of the Harkonnens on
Oh.
Dune. Yeah, probably in both movies, really. Um,
He could actually start his movie career or something.
yeah, I mean, there's better stuff to do with himself than that. I mean, I don't know. It's really hard to tell. Like if he's mentally ill, obviously, I feel
Yeah,
bad for him, but
of course.
I don't. It really seems like he's trying to be
Oh
a
yeah.
jerk, and that I mean, he's intentionally trying to get
Yes.
attention in like a bad way, not the worst way, but not good either.
Okay, I want to quickly apologize to Mr. David. I kind of was like really hard on him. He maybe lived a really hard life, doesn't have a house. Yeah, I want to immediately say I'm kind of sorry. Now thinking back, he's not. He's just a nice guy who just doesn't want to deal with life. He maybe have went through something terrible, and I would love to hear more about this story. I think I've read all of the articles on this case because there were like two, and we don't have all the details, but we wanted to bring this case to you guys. Now, the next case, ooh, we going back, man, to the UFO topic. So yeah, it's the UFOs, and we have some UFO videos, right? Coming out of Montpellier, which is in France, southern France, and it's basically pretty crazy. We have three different videos filming the same exact unidentified object, illuminated sphere, to some extent. I'm thinking, what is the best way to present this new story for everyone? Because this is gonna be like we're going to be looking at the UFO videos because they're pretty fascinating, captured on Montpellier last week. But I think before we start watching, I want to quickly read what I have on them, because essentially this will help our audience members who are listening to this not on the YouTube channel to have a better gauge on what's been happening. So I'm gonna put the video on loop for everyone who's watching this on our YouTube channel, but I'm gonna read out the news story, and it's a French article, so I translated it. So this is the sightings on November 9th. So we're recording this on November 13th. So this has happened 4 days before we started recording. And I want to quickly read out the news article that I have while the UFO sightings are playing, dude. And I don't think you've seen them, so you could also pay attention. Maybe you'll have some opinions, right? So essentially, what happened in Montpellier last week was a video was posted on social networks showing a particularly intriguing luminous phenomenon in the sky this Tuesday, November 9th. This strange light activity is said to have been observed near the Mediterranean coast of France. On social networks, testimonies have been pouring in since the observation by several people of a particularly strange luminous phenomenon in the sky. Now, several inhabitants of departments close to the Mediterranean observed and filmed this intriguing activity. The meteorology site, Meteo Guard, has posted several enigmatic videos on Twitter, and we're watching these videos right now on the YouTube channel. Now, this Meteo Twitter page from France states, we can observe a rectangular luminous shape wandering in the dark sky. According to our fellow meteorologists, the event was observed from Montpellier, Cournauterelle, and also Palvas les Flots, or even Sete. Okay, reports have even been reported from Andorra. Andorra is that small country, you know, in the middle of on the borders of Spain and France. So, and that's pretty far away from Montpellier. That's like I don't know, like maybe 100 kilometers or so. So it seemed like this sighting has been seen all over southern French region. And dude, I guess we can now react to what we see here. So this is happening on November 9th, so just a few days ago. You know, what do you make of this, man?
It's really weird. So is it on this video we're watching? Are they tracking an object that was holding still and then suddenly start moving?
Okay,
Yeah.
dude. Let's do it this way. So this is a compilation video of the 3 sightings.
Okay.
And I wanna, because I have all of them individually, but then I found like this compilation, so I was like, I'll just play around this compilation, and I want to quickly also add audio, really lightly audio to these clips to hear the reaction of the French spectators of what's happening. So this is the first one, and we can see, dude. I'll comment it as it happens. Yes, it's standing still. It's standing still. Well, and then start moving. Wait, did it stand still? Wait, let's see. It's standing. It seems like it's standing still. It's yes. Oof! You saw that, man? You saw that? It seemed okay. I wanna quickly mute the audio. Did you saw how it kind of seems like it does a flip? Look, if you would,
Like it tumbles, yeah,
look,
end
look.
over end, or like it does a weird
Look.
little spinning thing.
It now like seems like it like turned sideways a little bit, because it does have like that weird little spherical shape. I don't know, dude. I don't know this particular motion. And this is not like wacky. This is for everyone who's listening to this. We're not just talking about like some UFO nonsense. Like this is real. Multiple people captured this. This is real. Like legitimate meteo pages from France are reporting on this. This is real. Weird stuff happens in the sky all the time. It doesn't mean it's aliens. I'm not gonna say this is, oh my god, you know what I mean? This is not that, but maybe it is. Who knows, right? I'm just gonna say that something wacky is happening in the sky. We're trying to figure out what's happening here, dude. As you can see, look. Oh, it looked like it's flipping or something like that, and it's moving pretty fast. So this is the first clip. What do you think, man?
You know, the tough part about this is, compared to like, let's say 20 years, well, 2 things. One is this person probably wouldn't even have the camera ready if it was even maybe 10 years ago or 15 years ago, because they wouldn't have had a smartphone. So to be fair, that's part of the reason. But then the other thing is, you know, there's drones even on a consumer level that can do a lot of stuff, and sort of, you know, you, especially at nighttime, your perspective is off.
Oh,
yeah, so it, you know, it could be closer than it looks, it could be further than it looks. So you've seen people that do like the drone racing
yes, I think
and
I've
stuff
done,
like that, but
yeah.
they you know, they can make drones do like all kinds of crazy stuffs. So stuff. Like it was where my grandma go. All kinds of crazy stuff that you know seems strange. Now that you know me like from the other episodes in this topic, I'm like usually not the first one to claim it's drones or something else. You know, especially when it's certain things. When it's people on the ground filming, especially at night. I don't know. I mean, the footage is pretty awesome. I like it. To me, it doesn't look like a drone, especially that kind of weird end over end thing that it does is like really interesting. the way that thing works.
Maybe we can
Yeah.
see some more. Okay, so I really want to quickly also play. Okay, so this was the first clip that we've listened to. So to describe it for our audience members who are listening to this, we're very sorry that we haven't done so yet. I'm gonna politely play the audio and I will tell everyone what's happening as I play the first clip of the first sighting. So some people on the balcony in France, they're filming a really bright orange sphere in the sky. They're talking, they're kind of laughing a little bit. You know what I mean? They're just having conversation, and the lady was like, "Ah, ta, 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 ta," and then it kind of went over the building. So that was the first sighting, yo. Let's see the second sighting. Okay, so the second sighting begins in a more casual environment. Apparently, some people are having like a barbecue in their backyard somewhere in southern France, and like the dude is like, "Look." Okay, first of all, dude, before I continue on with this footage, like it's the same thing, right? It's clearly like they're seeing the same thing. It's the same exact shape. So these people are seeing the same exact shape as the people on the previous video on the balcony. They're having like their little barbecue. There's smoke everywhere because they're having a barbecue. And now the dude is like reacting a little bit. Something like that. And then je sais pas. And now it looks really, oh, it's like, you know, ay ay ay. And look, oh my god, what, dude, you saw that? And okay.
Wait, show it again one more time.
Oh yeah, dude, one quick. What? I will show. Okay. What the hell? Okay, dude. Okay, dude. So let's take it from the beginning. This one was pretty wacky. Okay, dude. So this is the beginning of the second video of the second sighting. So these dudes are having like their barbecue, right? And look, this is the same object, right? By the way, are you seeing this?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So keep looking, man. Keep looking. At first, it's, you know, a bright orb in the sky. We don't know what is this. You know, could be a drone, whatever. I do kind of find this part interesting. Now, for everyone who's listening to this, the drone actually, or not the drone, the UFO, it's kind of now moving like not in front of, but like there's a tree in front of the UFO, right? So the UFO flew past a tree, but now I kind of like the fact that, look, dude, you see how the tree doesn't contain the light completely coming out of the orb? Like, could you describe this in a more understandable English?
Yeah, it's like a mask or a screen in front of the light. Like you can see the light is going behind the object.
Yes, oh, perfect. See, this is why you're good. You're really good. You can explain things in a more understandable way. Okay, so look, dude, the crazy part is gonna start happening here. Look, it looks like a tic tac. Okay, like the shape here is like of what I'm not sure if you have those in America, like those little tic tacs that are supposed to make your like breath minty. It's literally like a small little tic tac, but it's orange. And look, dude, this is gonna be the crazy part. Just pay attention now. Look, bam, just like spins around and then goes in us. Okay, it kind of looked like a drone. I'm not gonna lie. Doesn't like this, because this is the best. This is the best thing we have on this thing. Look, this is the best thing we have on this thing. Look, okay, hypothetically, dude, what object known to mankind could make this move?
Except for a drone, right? Something that somehow
looks controlled by a remote control.
Yeah, I mean that's the only thing is that it is sort of, but like I mean it sucks because it's like, well, it looks like that, but that's what that is. But then other things look like that too, right? So, and then what if it is something that just because something looks like something that we can wrap our head around? It's just like the reason why they call them flying saucers, right? Or they used to call them flying saucers because what was the object they thought of that I look the most of. So it almost trivializes it. You know what I mean? We're almost forced to kind of not take it seriously.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Okay, going back to the last video, because we have the third video. It's of a dude who is driving a car and is also filming this. So I want to play the audio as well really quickly. So this is the ending of the second. This is it. This is it. This is a dude driving his car. We can hear his radio in the background. He's filming the same object. You know, it's... the dude is gasping for air. He's probably either... you know what I mean? Oh, don't choke, man. What's happening?
He's in shock.
Yeah. This is how the video ends. Okay, so this video doesn't really tell us much, that this dude probably has like some sort of a breathing impairment. Other than that, we don't really see any more additional information regarding the UFO. But okay, now looking at this video and looking at this last video, I'm kinda now starting to get the sense that this UFO from November 9th is nothing but a bright, flashy drone, you know what I mean? I don't know, I'm getting like feels that this is not aliens. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same. I mean, I would like to see more, and then I would like to hear from anyone else that investigated it. To me, it's not enough, unfortunately. It's interesting though.
But okay, one thing that I wanna say, that the movement, what I'm getting from the movement, that it's very similar to a drone, you know? Like,
Yeah.
like I know someone in the comments might probably tell us why this can't be a drone, and those will be valid points, but at this point I just don't really see it, you know?
I can't. I gotta. If I'm gonna respect the topic, I always gotta err on the side of caution, especially with stuff that looks like it could have been faked, or or just that it isn't what people might think it is. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, obviously there's an object there. To me, that's not. I think we can at least discount special effects, especially given all the multiple angles. That seems like that'd be a little bit hard to coordinate and fake, etc. So there's something. There's something there. It sure is bright. Sure is doing some like kind of amazing things with how it's moving.
I mean, if this is a gadget that I could get like for 500 euros, then you know what I mean, take my money.
Well, that's the real question. I mean, that have you? I mean, it's worth. I can't remember if I think I mentioned it on one of the extra episodes about it. This really famous incident that happened. That's on video. You can find the videos for it. Maybe we'll cover it in a future episode. The one that happened with that naval destroyer that got swarmed by like these weird like triangle things. Did you ever see that video?
Is this like one of the Nimitz? No.
It kind of remember like a little bit earlier this year when they were going to release a bunch of files, supposedly like some new analysis, and it was a whole bunch of stuff, and they didn't really say anything.
Like NASA?
No, it was like the military. It was like they were gonna release some files and say some stuff about the Nimitz thing and some other stuff, and it just at the end of the day it didn't really say anything special. But there was this one video that came out as part of this whole thing where it's because what happened was there was a bunch of weird stuff that happened to some ships, and it got like filmed, and they filmed when there was like an incident. Now there's cameras everywhere. Well, like especially if like let's say we have an incident with the Soviet Union. Well, like they're going to record it because like we're gonna guilt trip them about it later, right?
Yeah.
So it's the same kind of thing where like all of a sudden this weird thing started happening in the ship, and they want to be able to obviously show their bosses, show their commanding officers later, but they also want to look at it again, on a military research level to say what's going on. So there's this video where there's all these like weird. It's like it's filmed in night vision, and there's all these weird like floating pyramid things right over the ship, and it's really they're like strobing, and it's really odd. And that was one of the things where some people claim that's like drones from like Russia or China or something, and it's like
Yeah.
like a psychological
Hmm.
warfare op.
Uh, yeah. No, I haven't seen that one. We could dig it up and talk about it for sure. You know what I mean? It's we can do whatever we want in this podcast. But dude, one thing I want to mention to you, and it just really grazed my mind. Now, as we were talking about these sightings from France, the one thing that didn't connect in my head immediately is that wait, these sightings are happening in different places. Like it's not in a one city. Apparently, like the stretch, like the like the stretch, like the distance between each sightings is massive. So now this kind of started to unravel in my head. And I was thinking to myself, wait, so if these distances are that large and we do need those facts, and we don't have them, but let's say if these are like some, I don't know, 20, 30 kilometers apart, then this couldn't possibly be a drone, right?
See, that's interesting to me, and that actually matches up with something else that's been interesting that falls in that same category where you wonder if something could be a drone or not because of these limitations. So the one that happened here in the States was there was like I think it was a police helicopter that chased this object, and it did some weird stuff. It was a weird shape. It was weirdly lit, and they chased this thing way high in the atmosphere and for way farther than like any kind of conventional drone could do it. Like they actually suspected that it was either, if it was man-made, it was either from another government or from like the cartels or something, because it was such a,
Oh,
you know what I mean? Because it was such a, but it didn't make sense. It's like why would they do that, right? But I mean, you never know. Yeah, it was strange. It was it's something in that same kind of category. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, going back to the UFOs right now, the Reddit post that posted like this thing, they also posted a few other sightings, and they kind of said that this thing that happened last week in France is kind of similar to what has been happening in Mexico around various volcanoes. And I'm just gonna find what I have on that. But essentially, dude, this is 2015. This is 2015 around one of the volcanoes in Mexico. And apparently, like the dude who made the Reddit post is like, "Yo, could this be the same thing?" And to me, it didn't look all that similar, because now what we're seeing right now we're seeing like a really grainy CCTV footage from 2015 in somewhere, like it's filming one of the volcanoes in Mexico, and it looks like a bunch of fireflies to me, even though I don't really know how they look. I would just kind of imagine that this is how they look.
Yeah, I don't know how fireflies fly either. The one thing about this that always, I mean, it's beautiful, by the way. It's just it's so interesting because once again, this is something that like maybe 10 years ago there weren't really drones that did this. You know what I mean? The movements would have been a little different, but now the processors have gotten so good, and the way you can program things and maneuver is so good that it really makes you wonder, couldn't a drone also do that weird kind of like weaving upwards and then snowfall, like
Yes.
loop back down effect? Yeah.
But dude, look, this is December 25th, 2015. The Popocatépetl volcano, probably that's not how it's spelled, but it's a volcano, and it's the same volcano as the fireflies that we've just seen. Now, this UFO captured definitely has the same exact shape. Now, I know exactly what the Redditor meant by this. Look, dude, this looks similar. Like, I don't know. First of all, why are there CCTV cameras pointing at volcanoes? I don't really get that. But then,
Oh, to monitor them. Yeah, because volcanoes, they're often not dead. Like they're like dormant, but
oh,
like yeah. I mean, it's actually it's pretty cool how far back those things go. So the volcanoes will have like monitoring stations, and they'll have like these little mini eruptions or vents or earthquakes or things like that. And they just want to know, because like there's that famous video, if you've ever seen Mount St. Helens over here on the West Coast, there's like a film where you can actually, or like a time lapse where you can see this thing just grotesquely bulge out and then blow up. Yeah, so it's a normal thing, but yeah, it's interesting to see all that. Once again, it's too bad you don't get to the scale. I think the one thing you did identify as a key clue, though, is that if those videos we saw were all from the same object, and then depending on how far apart they were when they did that, what those are, that is interesting, because it makes you wonder, like, well, once again, that to me seems a lot harder now to justify as like kind of that like trickster, like I'm gonna make pretend crop circles kind of drone, the drone that like you use to fool people or like get attention. Like now it is like, yeah, that's pretty strange. Where did that come from, and what could that be? And then what I would like to know, maybe like if there's a follow up in the story at some point, what the distance was between like the, you know what I mean, like from one end to the other, what was the biggest gap? What was the biggest? Yeah.
Exactly. Going back really quickly to these volcano images, we've seen now a bunch of on the YouTube channel. We've shown already like a bunch of different videos. This is interesting that these weird little objects are flying over volcanoes in Mexico. It's kind of interesting, right? This one right here that we're looking to kind of is reminiscent like a falling star, even though I have no idea how they look, but kind of would assume that it would look like this,
Yeah, that one. What's the? Oh wait, but it's taking seconds. That's
Yeah.
weird. That's interesting, because it's like, I mean, have you've seen falling stars before?
Nope.
Oh, never? Okay.
Nah.
Yeah, no. I mean, they're not like consistent. I mean, they could do a lot of different things, but to me, that really long one, like that's weird. I mean, it almost looks like a comet, or maybe it is something that, I guess the one thing here where I live, like a lot of cities, we have light pollution, which means it's hard to see the stars,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Because there's so much light. So maybe that's what some falling stars do look like. It's just I can't see them because I'm so blown away. I'm so smothered by the light exposure here.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. You have the same issue here as well, I think. Maybe not as much, right, as in Los Angeles, but still. A few more UFO thingies that I just wanted to bring up from the same post. Now, this was an interesting picture to me. So, this is a picture taken by James McDivitt. James McDivitt was a astronaut, and he took this image. He took this picture on June 1965. And essentially, I think everyone was kind of sleeping in the space shuttle, wherever they were at that point. This is in 1965. And McDivitt was taking some pictures. I don't know if he was taking some pictures to take the pictures generally, or was he fascinated by what we can see. Now, and he decided to take this picture because of the object that we can see, because this is a real picture. This is not Photoshop. This is not like, this is a real NASA released picture from 1965 taken by an astronaut called James McDivitt. So James McDivitt took this picture, and we can see, for everyone who's listening to this, a weird object, a very, dude, how about you describe this object, because you're gonna do a way better job than me.
I'm even trying to, like, as I look at this, is there any way that you could zoom in on the, I don't know if there's a way to make it. Yeah, I mean, it almost looks like, it reminds me of, if you ever see what like a butterfly, what a caterpillar turns into. Before it turns into a butterfly, that like let's call it a chrysalis.
Yeah.
It almost looks like one of those made out of metal. It's really smooth. It's almost like a cylinder, but it's like more. Ooh, what's that shape? It's like a banana without a curve because it's got rounded ends. And so, was this supposed to be floating, or was this supposed to be laying somewhere? I guess I'm assuming there's not. If those are mountains, the mountains of Earth underneath it, that it's not as big as a mountain. But so it's just something that's closer to the camera, like in space?
Yeah, really quickly wanna read an article about this. So this is James. I'm sorry. Yeah, James McDavid. This picture was taken on the space mission called Gemini 4. I don't really know a lot about Gemini 4, but I know that I can read this to everyone right now who are interested in what actually happened when James took this image. So on the second day of Gemini 4, when the space shuttle was over Hawaii, while his crewmate was asleep, James McDavid happened to see an unidentified flying object, which he described as looking, quote, like a beer can or a pop can, and with a little thing like maybe like a pencil or something sticking out of it, end quote. He took a few photographs of it, but did not have the time to properly set exposure or focus properly. He believes that since it was visible to him, it must have been in an orbit close to that of his spacecraft, probably a piece of ice or multi-layer insulation that had broken off. Word of the UFO photos reached the press by the time the flight splashed down, and one eager reporter waited for the Gemini 4 photos to be processed. He found one with a cluster of 3 or 4 images that looked like disc-shaped objects with tails, which became known as the tadpole photo. James McDavid has identified these as reflections of bolts in the multi-planned window. Mercury 7 astronaut Gordon Cooper wrote in his memoirs that it is the only officially reported account of a UFO in any of the Mercury, Gemini, or Apollo missions. So essentially, James McDavid took a whole bunch of pics, and when they were developed in 1965, he then looked at them again, and he was like, "Oh, so these are probably reflections of bolts in the multi-planed windows. So these are reflections. So this is not even an object, right? So, but that's weird because he said he definitely saw an object, but now he's saying that he didn't see an object. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's kind of strange. Could this be a reflection, dude?
I mean, to me, it doesn't at all look like a reflection. It's so strange. Like it almost. Do you see how there's even like that weird kind of like halo around it?
Yeah.
Like it, you know what I mean? It almost looks. I mean, if it wasn't a real, it's like the definition is actually pretty good on this weird reflected object. But this isn't the tadpoles one, right? The photo. This isn't the tadpoles photo, because the tadpoles photo, they said there was like a reflection of like there was like weird things with tails sticking out.
Oh,
wait. I think, yeah, I think this isn't the same.
Tadpole, UFO. I'm just googling it. You can't really find it, so maybe it's something we could get back to it. Anyways, dude, that was kind of interesting. This is another picture from NASA, 2013 Earth orbit pictures. Your take on this, man? I mean, this is all that was left in that Reddit post, so I wanna pay respect to the Redditor, because he definitely did a really nice job linking everything for us. So, you have any thoughts on this? This is 2013 picture, but it looks like it's from like goddamn 50s.
It's so weird. Yeah, like can you zoom in on those colored things? Those are so weird.
Yeah, man.
Wow. So that, I mean, those are like a little bit harder to discern. I mean, to be fair, the one thing I will say about this and the way those colors look weird is that, um, like camera lens is true. Like when you don't set the exposure right, your camera could capture some weird looking things, and I don't know. I mean, maybe it could be the reflections go a little wonky when you're taking it. That to me looks a little more plausible. Like maybe there's LEDs that are reflecting against the window there from behind the person taking the photo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Maybe that, but I think the thing that makes me interested in this topic is a couple things. So one is that there's always been a lot of rumors around the idea that astronauts saw stuff up there and were told to keep quiet. So then there's one like persistent set of rumors that like the whole time the space program's gone on, that like sort of the dirty little secret is that people have always seen stuff up there when they go up there, and there's just like constant activity up there of weird UFOs.
And everyone's in the loop.
Everyone's in the loop or keeps quiet, or even though this one case is like the only official one, there's been like some kind of unofficial stuff that's gone on. I can't remember now who it was that had some weird story of there's been some other UFO stories that I've heard from the astronauts, and then the famous one, which I'll stress has never been proven, and Armstrong never said anything about it. There was always this rumor that I think it was at the dark side of the moon or something. There was always rumors that like some of these moon missions that they encountered stuff like maybe other objects waiting up there for us.
Jeez.
And they were told to keep quiet. Yeah, but obviously it's like one of those situations where you could almost say anything, right? Because it's hard to disprove it, especially since Neil Armstrong is dead now. But he is dead now, right?
Yeah.
So that's part of what makes this topic a little bit weird. But it's also really fascinating because the idea is you have had specific astronauts really chime in and say, well, I believe in UFOs, or things to that effect that are very supportive of the topic. And then and I think you even have you had an article about one of those astronauts linked to in this thing. So that was a good case in point where being an astronaut gives you a lot of credibility. But then, like, that astronaut, case in point, turned out he'd gotten a little bit wacky after, he'd always kind of...
This is Edgar Mitchell?
Yeah. So that was interesting to read what he involved himself in. I mean, nothing like, bad. Just stuff that was, like, a little bit fringy versus mainstream science. Or it was really supposed to be not even about science. It was supposed to be, like, this weird... thing about stuff outside of science. So right away it made it to the point where do you want to say what it was in the article that the guy said?
I didn't read the article, dude. I just linked it. Could you?
Okay, it was pretty funny. So it was like the guy sent a message to John Podesta.
Oh yes.
In 2000, like right before he died, actually.
Yeah.
Which was interesting. Yeah, well, I mean, not that it has anything to do with it, but I'm just saying, like,
allegedly.
Like the guy had lived a pretty full life, and this article, it was. Oh, I can't find it now.
I have it. John Podesta.
Yeah.
Podesta received emails from the astronaut Mitchell that expressed his concerns about the weaponization of space and its impact on the ETY, extraterrestrial intelligence. Despite the fact that aliens might be violent and shown in the various sci-fi, the notable astronaut called them non-violent in an email. So he was talking about describing actual aliens to John Podesta, who was chief of staff of the White House.
Yeah, and like he As
In the email to Podesta, he was asking Podesta to have an urgent meeting to discuss disclosure and 0 point energy. 0 point energy. He was concerned about the peace in space. God damn. Mitchell emailed Podesta again on September 18th, 2015. He wrote, "Because the war in space race is heating up, I felt you should be aware of several factors as you and I schedule our Skype talk. Remember our non-violent ETY, extraterrestrial intelligence from the continuous universe, are helping us bring 0 point energy to Earth. They will not tolerate any forms of military violence on Earth or in space." He was really going crazy.
he certainly was talking a lot about that one topic, and I don't know. What do you think? You think John Podesta took him seriously?
I mean, John Podesta was also involved in some
Well, no way. We should clearly make sure we don't get in trouble with YouTube.
No,
but
I'm not gonna say
yeah,
anything.
yeah,
I'm keeping my mouth shut.
that name was familiar though from previous kind of topics over the YouTube years, for sure. So it was like that guy of all people, for sure didn't need
Yeah.
you know, the ETI and 0 point energy on his head too. So do you think he rushed right out there to return that phone call?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's what I did. Called him right back. Oh yeah, sorry, I was in the bathroom. I was,
He was
I
in the
was in there
bathroom,
when
you know what I mean?
when
He
you called.
was.
Yeah, sorry, I did.
I
My
was in the
people didn't know.
bathroom. I was in the
I
bathroom
was
while I was eating some pizza.
I was I was gonna tell them to send your call right through. I promise. But you know what? Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, the guy's interesting. Like the guy had that starts to like sound a little wacky, right? And this is my frustration with the topic is all of a sudden that sort of undercuts like
Mm-hmm.
the guy doesn't sound reliable anymore, right? Even though he may very well have been just a totally normal, like credible dude when he died, just taken out in that context, and then taken him when you look at sort of read like what else he'd been up to over the years. Well, yeah, he was in kind of like it's almost like a religion. You know what I mean? Not quite, but ballpark. Same kind of thing. Something that was more about beliefs than the science. And then yeah, I mean he was saying like the job producers like the aliens won't put up with this. They're sort of implying that like the aliens were essentially like governing us, if that makes sense, or like that they had either brokered some argument with us, some bargain with us, or otherwise like had some kind of leverage over us or ability to stop us from doing things. My question would be, well, what are they waiting for? Because the 0 point energy thing, then that was like an interesting part of the Reddit thread to me, because the Reddit thread then kind of got into this little debate about like, well, if there was 0 point energy, which I think is supposed to be like some kind of easily attainable infinite amount of energy, if they already gave us that secret, why aren't we using it?
Yeah, exactly.
So that was interesting, because then people were like, well, you see, it's because if they did that, it would destroy our culture, because you have all these businesses that are basically based on like fossil fuels and stuff like that. And then it was like, well, no, because you see, well, why would business ever hold back on that? And then someone else was like, well, you see, that would destroy us because we'd become like it was like an interesting little rabbit hole you could get down on the Reddit.
Anyways, I feel like it's complete nonsense. Yeah, one way or another. I feel like this dude was probably like trying to sell some books or something. Just to like.
Yeah. Or just may have just become to like we've kind of seen with a lot of things, without getting political, maybe come to like have beliefs about things that were based more on faith than fact.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that doesn't mean they're wrong. I'm not going to tell anybody that their religion is wrong. But I'm going to say that if you don't have the facts to back it up, then you're relying on faith.
Exactly. No, that's a good way to close that topic off, I think. Really quickly, before we end this show, I wanted to follow up on the Cleo Smith case from last week because we have new developments in the Cleo Smith case, a few very sad developments that I've kind of foreshadowed already, so I don't want to not talk about them. So, a recent development that we did not know about, the disappearance of Cleo Smith was the fact that Cleo Smith's family, extended family members, had a pretty severe tragedy even before Cleo disappeared. And I just wanted to mention this because it was a really sad story that as shortly before Cleo Smith disappeared, her family was already coming to terms with a major tragedy when a 4-year-old was allegedly oh, I'm sorry, what am I saying here? Just over 2 months before Cleo Smith went missing, the story from last week. Now she's fine. She was kidnapped by that, Michael Jackson guy, look-alike. Now Cleo Smith family, prior to her getting abducted, had already received one heartbreaking news, essentially, that Cleo's younger cousin Mason had died from a rare genetic disorder. So, the cousin Mason, the son of Cleo's auntie, Shakira Otway, her husband Les, as well. Now, Mason was born in 2018, and by January 2019, Mason had begun to have uncontrollable seizures and was diagnosed with lissencephaly, a rare condition that caused his brain to develop smoothly. He was also diagnosed with cerebral palsy, epilepsy, vision impairment, and global development delays. Shortly after Mason's diagnosis, his parents set up a Facebook page to document his journey. In November 2020, his parents uploaded a sweet photo of Cleo caressing Mason's face while the families were on holiday together in Exmouth. Quote, Mason didn't get to have a swim, but he loved sitting by the pool and getting lots of cuddles from everyone. The post read, the memories we make with Mason are becoming ever more precious as the horrible year of hospital stays continues. Another photo shows Cleo and Mason together. Both are in the arms of their grandmother, Cheryl Glidden, and the quote on that post is, Cousin Love, Mason is blessed to have the most wonderful big cousin and a new little one on the way. And around the time of Mason's third birthday in July of this year, his parents announced that he had passed away. Quote, it gives us the greatest pain to tell you all that our little warrior, Mason J. Otway, lost his fight Sunday night in the arms of his mom and dad. And, shortly after this, Cleo disappears. So, dude, like, this family has, had literally, the extended family as a whole, had literally, such a horrific summer, early fall,
Up until now, they couldn't catch a break, right? And the only break was
Jesus
getting their kid back
Christ.
safely. Yeah.
That's so insane. And speaking of the getting back of Cleo, right? We did tease a little bit last week that there's an audio clip of Cleo getting found by police enforcement. And she said, my name's Cleo, which became, the famous words in Australia. Now we do have that clip, so I quickly want to play it to everyone. Everyone could listen in to what Cleo sounded on that day.
A Bratz doll pulled straight from the
Oh, this is not it. I'm sorry. This is it.
I've got a. Hey, Bobby.
Bring the camera in.
Come here. Come here. I've got you, Bobby.
What's your name?
You're alright.
What's your name? What's your name, sweetheart?
My name is Cleo.
Your name
You're
is
all
Cleo.
right,
Hello, Cleo.
Yeah, so that's Cleo as she was found, and there are also some developments in the essentially in the kidnapper. The guy who kidnapped Cleo. Let me quickly jump to his name, because his name Terrence Darrell Kelly, who was 36. There are some new developments. What he found in his home, because the last week they found Cleo, and now more things are coming to light. So essentially, like, Cleo's abductor, right? He, from what we gathered, had bought Cleo some sort of a coloring book and some pencils. And when police found Cleo in his home, she was actually playing with dolls. You know what I mean? So what do you make of that? What do you think must have went on in that household for 18 days as Cleo was captured?
I mean, it's so weird. It makes you wonder. I mean, it makes you hope that this guy just was so fascinated with dolls and the idea that this little girl was like a doll that he was just just studying her. I guess I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
is her name still being used? Because, like I said, if they suspect certain kinds of crimes, at some point, once they recover, once there's like a trial that needs to happen, depending on the place, they don't always reveal the names of victims of certain kinds of crimes, or they'll sort of try to re-hide it, even though I mean, and I know that the cat's out of the bag already about which person we were worried about. But anyway, in retrospect, the press will try to respect that and kind of redact their stories and stuff about the incident to provide privacy. So it kind of sounds like they just think the guy just sat there and stared at her, and I assume fed and to try to take care of her.
Yeah, it's actually probably what may have happened. I do have some more information from the Daily Mail. So, detectives allegedly found the little girl in the locked home of Terrence Kelly playing with toys in one of the bedrooms. The miraculous discovery came just moments after police arrested her alleged abductor in his car. You know what I mean? Now, a local man has now claimed that the suspect Kelly had actually asked for updates on the case on the missing girl while he attended an Aboriginal training and job seeking agency, because the Terrence Kelly is an Aboriginal male. Kelly would visit the quote real futures branch in Carnarvon up to 4 times a week, and would regularly ask about Cleo's disappearance and talk about it with the staff. And the quote is that every day he went there, he wanted updates. Every morning he would ask them what they think of Cleo being kidnapped. So this dude essentially was going to, I don't know, some sort of a non-profit organization to help like Aboriginals get like a career going, you know what I mean, in Australia. And he would just talk with staff like, yo, what do you think happened to Cleo? As Cleo was like locked up in his house.
Wow. Okay. Well, then that changes my perception of him a bit. I mean, it makes him seem a lot more devious, or I don't. I still really wonder about his motives then.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. More will come out of this, and I have set my Google alerts for this case. And yeah, you know what I mean? For this week, I think we kind of went through everything that we wanted to go through. We do have another section that we would like to talk about. I'm not sure if we have enough time, but we do have a few cases that we would probably like to foreshadow. um, I did find yours particularly interesting, to be honest, the one that you left in the notes. It's of a man who was found stabbed to death 73 times in Florida on 1996 in a convenience store he worked in. Yeah, I mean, and 25 later, no arrests. Oh, an arrest has been made recently, like 25 years, an arrest has been made. So this is I have no idea about this case, but do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, so I've been kind of following this thread lately about cold cases because I've just noticed a lot more, and maybe it's just what I'm subscribed to in Reddit, but I've seen a lot more cases where they're starting to solve old cases. So they're going back and they're like, hey, with this old evidence, we have something we can get DNA match from, and then like the first thing they do usually when they get DNA is try to run it through some national databases and see if they get any hits. And then we've already talked about the other ways they can kind of triangulate on someone whose DNA may not be in the system but may be related to someone who is in the system. There's a way that they can kind of try to find somebody, and that's actually a really interesting, like, kind of Sherlock Holmes kind of detective trail you got to go down to find that. Sometimes it's a mixture of genealogy and DNA and research. But yeah, in this case, I just thought that here we have case once again. You have something that's an old crime, and you just think about that, like how much people thought like back then. There was I mean, in 1996 there was DNA evidence, but it was still kind of it was still a little bit primitive. You know what I mean? People weren't getting caught all the time on DNA, and they were still even struggling to get juries to understand what they were talking about with DNA. The O.J. Simpson trial case in point, with what seems like if the jury didn't understand what was going on, why there was that verdict. Yeah, so from that perspective, I've started to highlight cases like this where, from my perspective, this is interesting, and then you're seeing justice. I mean, often way too late, but you are starting to see people who were kind of gone and forgotten. Um, Now, this person that thought that, can you imagine somebody like that? That somebody that gets accused of this stuff now because of this DNA evidence. If they did it, they went like decades, right? Thinking they got away with this thing or this thing hanging over their head, and now all of a sudden, boom, here come the cops, and they have really good evidence that ties the person to it.
No, that's a good point. I also have some cases, but maybe I don't want to necessarily foreshadow them this week. But I think maybe on the next week's episode, we could have some more cases that we would like to foreshadow and bring to our audience attention and hear your thoughts. Would you like us to dig more deeply into these cases? So the case that Glenn just mentioned about the man who was stabbed over 70 times in 1996 in Florida. The case apparently has been solved. I don't know much about it, but we could definitely look into it and bring you coverage by next week. You know what I mean? So, guys, please leave your thoughts in the comment section. What do you thought about this week's episode? We're still getting a hang of this new format. I think it's like more enjoyable. Obviously, we will be jumping back to like soul case episodes here and there if there's like a big case development, you know what I mean, or anything like that. So leave your thoughts in the comment section, guys. I really enjoyed this week's show, man. Before we sign out, anything you want to mention to our audience members?
Yeah, just please. We really enjoy the feedback, so keep it coming. We enjoy your topic suggestions. If we haven't responded to you yet with your topic suggestions, it's just a matter of time of us getting to it. We both had pretty packed weeks. So, once again, we really appreciate your support and hope that you will enjoy this episode and our next one.
Exactly. And we will join you the next week. Hope everyone will have a great rest of the weekend, and we'll see you on the next one. Stay safe and peace out.